Morning. And thank you so much for joining us from Houston, Texas. And I got a room full here at Velma Jackson, and we're recording this for our friends at Rosa Scott, Ridgeland High School and Germantown High School. And before we get started, we think, I mentioned before we started, it's super cool. You're in Houston, you're from Chicago, and went to the same high school as our very own Coach Martin here at Velma Jackson, which is super cool. And then you have family right here in the Jackson area. So it's just crazy how small the world is, even though you've lived in major cities.
Most definitely.
But we think
home, so it's nothing ever I can say that I never liked about Jackson. I would be from Jackson to Ridgeland to Brandon all my life, and so it's like the second home. So it's a pleasure to be here and to be a part of this. And we always carry Cavalier pride no matter where we go.
Hashtag, I know you said hashtag Cavalier for life.
That's right.
And we thank you so much for joining us. And we talked earlier, we're looking at the STEM career cluster, and we actually just watched a video about Verizon network engineers that were at the Super Bowl, and all of the behind the scenes and very visible things that went on. So I'll let you talk about your background and how you got into it and what all it is you do and have done and could do as a network engineer, and how your representation in the industry is so important.
Okay, well, first of all, it's an honor to be able to present to you guys, and good morning, everyone. My name is Christa Johnson. I am a network engineer, what they consider in Verizon a level 3, which is a pretty higher up level. You can't see my shirt, but let me stand up just a little bit. I do what's called create the network that moves the world forward. So with me moving the world forward, everyone has a cell phone, everyone has a smartwatch, a tablet, their computer, laptops, anything that connects to the outside world, whether it is through Wi-Fi, whether it is, to travel to get to their next location with GPS. That's what I do. I build the network that helps us move forward. When, as you guys probably saw in the Super Bowl, commercials and the Super Bowl videos, you saw my engineers like myself create, the technology that allows people to enjoy the game. It's not just about the players; it's about what we do to bring that game to people. People stream, people, record, they take videos, as you guys know now, we TikTok, we Facebook Live, we Instagram Live, we do everything through our phones. And that's what we're here to do. And a lot of times through concerts, sporting events, even, unfortunately, disasters, we run to those situations to make sure that everyone stays connected. So it's a joy to be a part of that. This was actually one of my dream jobs in life to do, and to be able to achieve it. And in Houston, it's probably one of the biggest places to do it. And I cover not only the Houston area, I cover the entire Gulf Coast. So I go as far out as Pensacola, Florida, to make sure that the network is working.
Wow.
I do have, just a little bit of a presentation that I was going to share with you guys about what I do specifically, about some of the tools I have, and just, personal goals. And you may see a little bit of, me. Just
fun.
Personal thing. I'm open to questions. I'm open to comments. Anything that you guys have to ask, I am willing to answer and willing to assist in any way possible.
We have some good questions ready for you.
All right. So give me 1 second. Let me get started and present this. And I'll size this out real quick. quick presentation. As you can see, that's me. It's just a quick day in the life of a network engineer. It's just my passion to be a part of building a network, being a part of cellular technology and technology as a whole. I love keeping the world connected. As as your instructor just said, hey, I grew up in Chicago, went to Jackson State briefly, but also, have family and friends that have been in Jackson for my entire life. So I've been in Mississippi, through summers, spring break, winter breaks, anytime possible. But I always love keeping in contact. And now that I live in Houston, my family is still in Chicago and everywhere else around the country and pretty much around the world. I even have an aunt in Amsterdam that I keep in touch with. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's always good to stay connected. So when I step into this role of technology in general, it I knew that it was something bigger. I knew that it wasn't only for people who only had cell phones. It was for communication to the world. And just think, now we're in the middle or revamping a new pandemic, as you guys are still in masks and we're still, keeping it separate and safe as possible. Technology is more important than ever because this is the way that we communicate, goodness.
And millions of dollars of business transactions.
Yes.
Yeah, companies are paying big money to have a network that works.
Look, I'm Christa shopping right now, so that is right there. And so I have to keep this network going because, my dad is a little spoiled, so I gotta get him, his newest drone this year for Christmas. So I had to make sure I ordered that. But it keeps us connected with the world and it keeps us connected with everyone. And that's what I enjoy doing. As you can see, I put a few pictures of myself, just a cute little kid from Chicago, from the south side of Chicago, as Coach likes to say, I am one of three girls. I played softball, volleyball. I even played the saxophone in sixth grade. So I played from sixth grade all the way into college. That was still a passion of mine, but just one of my personal goals was to always do engineering. I loved working with technology. I loved working with computers. Actually, I used to get in trouble. By pulling apart the television remotes, the lamps, all types of things in the house. And then my mother realized, she said, okay, as long as they're working together, I can't really get mad at it. So she allowed me to break things purposely sometimes. And in the fourth picture right here behind me, those are actual batteries in my network area. So where I work is what's called the network switch. And a lot of it is battery powered and battery operated. We can work on general power, but just like if the power goes out at home, the power can go out anywhere. So what my site does, it's generated through batteries and generators about the size of locomotive trains to keep not only my location going, but to keep the entire city and the Gulf Coast going. As I said before, a lot of times we back up the entire Gulf Coast area and we're the main site. So one of my sister sites is Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So if Baton Rouge goes down, Houston picks up everything. And we make sure that there's no cell service that's dropped for a significant amount of time.
Yeah, that's about 30 million people. That's about 10% of the population of the United States right there.
That's right. So you got to think about it. And Houston is one of the biggest cities in the country right now. We're growing even bigger. So we got to make sure everybody stays connected. All right. So these three women right here are my personal inspirations. Now, I know as a young Black woman and growing up in Chicago, you see a lot of things, even in the South, living in Mississippi for summers and even, going to summer camps there. You see a lot of influences that may not be as great, but also you may not see yourself. So what I did is I took my own initiative and found my own inspiration. Um, these three women are very important to me. And it kind of leads me into one of my next dreams and goals in life is to be an engineer for NASA. And I'm in the right place being in Houston because we have Johnson Space Center not too far from here. And I've been a couple times. So I'm like a kid in the candy store when it comes to that place.
Yeah, and then just for anybody watching or watching later, Katherine Johnson was featured in the movie Hidden Figures. So
That's right.
that is one of the characters from that movie.
That's right. That's who
She was a jet propulsion.
Yep, she was based upon it. She literally created the formula that helped the astronauts lift off and take off without a problem because other than that, unfortunately, that spaceship could have exploded mid-air if it wasn't for her. Dr. Stephanie Wilson was the second Black woman in space, but she's an engineer. Dr. Mae Jemison was the first, and she is an engineer. And these three women actually paved the way for people like me and people like you all in the passion for STEM and the passion for technology. This is the wave of the future, and it's just a different route that we all go about. So definitely, you want to take a look at these three people just to start, and then I can send more information about others. And, even if you guys have other questions for me, I can definitely send that information to you as well. Another person that is a personal inspiration to me that's not here is my aunt, and she actually is a technology engineer for HP. And she's been doing that for quite some time. So when I was a kid, I used to shadow her a lot. And it was like the coolest thing because she used to go to sites and locations and pull things apart. And that was me. I like to just break stuff and put it back together and make sure it worked and it was better. So she's definitely one of my greatest inspirations too. So now, just as far as the representation of Black engineers and technology, and if you don't know this guy, you got to get to know Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, yep.
He is awesome. And it's mind blowing that only 4.4% of engineers are of African American or Black descent. And it very much makes a difference because I'll even give you a prime example. I'm in the office to where I am the only woman, I'm the only Black person, and I'm the youngest.
Wow.
So, yeah. And a lot of people look at me as not being the normal. But now you guys have the opportunity to create that normal now, with what you choose to do with being a part of technology, with the passion that you guys have for growing into STEM and things of that nature. And it's crazy because you won't see a lot of people like yourself. And when you do, you tend to gravitate and get closer to them, but also work together to bring more people in and bring more of your classmates in and show them how amazing technology is. It's not just what your cell phone does anymore, okay? It's not just what your watch does. It actually is how you connect the world. And when you connect that world, you have that power. I work with cell towers. I work with my field engineers. So if something goes down in an area, I have to build that network virtually so they can physically. Yeah, I have to build that network virtually in order for them to physically be able to read what I'm showing. Now, this picture right here is probably one of my greatest works. It took a long time, but it's just some of the things that motivates me, and just some of the tools that I believe would help you, and some of the things that people are looking for when you want to be an engineer, and just some of the skills that's needed. Just be goal oriented. Pay attention to details. As you can see in that photo, you see how neat each and every cable is. The crazy thing about those cables, most of them are made of glass. You'll never know on the inside. Fiber cables are little pieces of glass and they can never bend in a full angle. So you can't bend it ever. They can fold a little, but they can never fully bend because if not, you lose that communication and you gotta replace that entire cable. And I've ran fiber cables that are as long as about a good 500 to 600 feet minimum. So it's a headache if you get all the way to the end and that one piece bends fully and it breaks. And then you got to start from scratch all over again. Also, you got to be a team player. Oh, like I said before, there's not a lot of people that's like you and I. But you also have to be well-rounded and versatile to be able to work with others and to understand it's not just you that's building this network. It's not just you that's being a part of this engineering team that has the same goal. Everyone has the same goal and everyone should work together. And everyone's ideas help, they influence, and they work towards that goal in my job specifically, making the network work. You've got to be reliable. You've got to be accountable for your work and for your responsibility. No, like it's a lot of numbers involved. It's a lot of building. There's so many folders you're gonna have. It's gonna probably drive you crazy with all the things that you would have and all the things that you would need to know in order for you to get there. But it's it's a lot of information and you're building this. So you're going to be very creative in your building. It's just going to be sometimes a little tedious. And
And
then also,
I think that's important, just for STEM, you talk about the engineering design process. Very, very rarely, and I would say probably never, engineers never get it right the first time. It's
never,
probably the most trial and error job in the world because
yes,
so many things had to be broken apart, so many things had to be tested, and it rarely, rarely works the first time.
yes. And let me add to that. I am probably one of the hardest people on earth for myself. So I'm hard on myself. Um, and the one thing that you definitely have to learn is there's definitely going to be a lot of mistakes made. As long as the mistake is not so big that you can't come back from, it's okay. And that's the purpose of having a part of your team with you in order for you to grow, in order for you to get better, in order for you to be stronger. Because if that one team player is not good and is down, that's when you have the rest of your team to build you right back up. Okay? So just remember, it's all a partnership with everyone. That's why a lot of times my field engineers work with me. I even, before I became an engineer, here in Houston, I used to work in the call centers for Verizon, and I was tech support. So you know how something breaks, something goes bad. First thing you do, you call customer service, right? I was that person. So with with me being that person and helping my customers learn about their phones, about their technology, about the money they just spent on a brand new iPhone or a brand new Galaxy, which now is more and more expensive by the day, it gave me a little more of a excitement to want to know how else we can, build from here. So that's another reason that I got into the network engineering department with Verizon, and it made me eager. So that's why I say you have to be eager to learn every form of technology because technology is never going to be the same the second time around. It's always going to be something different. It's always going to be something new. And that's the one thing that you have to be excited about. And that's the one thing that I'm always excited to learn. Right now, I am actually taking new certifications and trainings on my own. So when you are self-motivated, you never see an end in sight in learning what your next goal is or what's the upcoming, piece of technology or the newest and the latest and greatest. So always have that excitement and that thirst for knowledge and want to learn and want to grow. It helps along the way, I promise you. So on the next slide, this is just some things that I have at Verizon, a few, parts that I work with. As you can see, these two at the bottom, these are my trucks at my site, at my location right now in Houston. These trucks are very special because I actually deployed these trucks for various situations. Prime example, the it's not a it's a pretty hard situation, but when Astro World was here in Houston and the incident happened and unfortunately a lot of people were hurt, Verizon was there to keep people connected. We were originally there, just to make sure that no one lost service. But when disaster strikes and unfortunate situations happen, that's when we really kick into full gear and we make sure these trucks, which are portable towers, work and make sure that people, whether they're Verizon customers or not, have service. The cool thing about my trucks is that if you open them up on the inside, you can actually connect your cell phone, no matter what carrier it is, to those trucks.
Wow, that's impressive.
That people can connect at any point in time. Hurricane season, these trucks are out in full force. I have seen so much in the short time that I've been here in Houston as far as when disaster has struck, from hurricanes to, as you guys know, Texas froze completely over earlier this year, and not one customer lost service in Verizon.
Yeah, and I can attest to that. I've lived through that during Hurricane Katrina. I had no cell phone coverage for 3 days, and it was extremely frustrating.
And it's very difficult, especially when you have family and friends that are so worried about you. The crazy thing is with me, when the power was out here at home, because I lost power for like 2 or 3 days for that winter storm. We lost power, we lost water in the area. Luckily, my site, as I said before, was still up and running without a problem. But what was more important was that my family was able to reach me and make sure that I was safe, make sure that my family was safe, and make sure we were staying warm and safe. I actually was able to make sure that my neighbors were well taken care of too, because I had a little bit of that Chicago winter in me, so I knew how to take care of myself and protect myself and make sure others were well taken care of. But I was able to communicate with them because the technology was still working. As you can see in the middle, that's what we have is what's called the tech barnyard. Okay, so the cow is a cell on wheels. The coat is a cell on a light truck. So these are actually vehicles that we call animals. So as you can see, the truck on the left would be my cow. And then the truck on the right would be my horse, because it has an HVAC on there. So they have special equipment on each one of them, so I can deploy them anywhere in the country and make sure the cell service works. And we call it the barnyard because they're abbreviated for each, term. I can send you a copy of the tech barnyard so you guys can have it in detail. So if you have any questions, it's going to be more, broken down for you. But this is actually a great tool. And as you can see, that's a cell tower on the top right corner. But if you look at the very bottom of that truck, you see those same waves on the top? Those same bars are on the bottom of that truck. These are towers. These are actual cell site towers. And that is a 5G network that is on wheels.
Wow.
Yep. So I work with my engineers to do that. Now, do I drive them out? No. Do I leave my engineers sometimes? Absolutely, because I want to make sure that the service works. And the great thing about it is I can take this job anywhere. I can go anywhere with it. So, you don't have to specifically be restricted to a company. You can actually do this independently. The cool thing about what I did and the steps that I took to get here is the fact that I went to what's called a vocational high school. So with vocational high school, we focused on career-oriented positions. Um, I always knew I wanted to be an engineer, but the first and second year of high school, they gave us opportunities to try other departments and other careers. So I I took aviation. We had a hangar, as coach would tell you, there's actually an aviation hangar on my high school campus
That's
where there's
crazy.
airplanes, and it's awesome. There is a greenhouse at the very top of the building. This school in Chicago is probably the third biggest high school in the state, and it used to be a Navy base. So that's how far back it goes. I took horticulture, so I learned about the environment, plants, and even for people who want to go into beauty, like there's a beauty salon right there. I have friends who have owned their own salon since high school because of going to a vocational academy. I specifically took engineering. I took computer and electronics engineering at CVS, and walked out with certifications from A plus to C plus to maintenance backgrounds and so forth.
Yeah, and we have for anybody watching now, and obviously those watching later, we have an engineering program at our VOTEC Center for our school district. So every student would have the opportunity to get engineering certifications in high school if that's the path they wanted to go.
Yeah, and as I said, also it's you walk out with so much, and college is for everyone. You gotta be honest about it. I went to Jackson State. I loved it, but situations happened to where personally my dad got sick and I couldn't focus. So I found another route. There's always another way around it. A lot of people I know went to the military and learned engineering, and came out with so much. I have friends who was in the Marines that learned radio frequency engineering and STEM. Um, Even people that went to a technical, school, um, after, college, they just went, to like a 2-year degree. I personally only have an associate, but because I keep going with the certification, it gives me the opportunity to learn and to grow and to own my craft of being an engineer. So it definitely helps and it makes things a lot better. So right now, I mean, honestly, this is just a couple of things that I have, right here. Ladies, I am firm on keeping a great manicure. So as you can see in the right hand, my hands are always taken care of. But don't let that discourage you. A lot of guys look at me and they're like, oh my gosh, your nails are done, and oh my goodness, you're wearing gym shoes. But you gotta think about it. No one person is the same. Everybody has their own individuality.
Absolutely.
And I built that entire switchblade box myself.
That's
From
awesome.
the wire to the installing to the tools and everything in between. The picture in the middle is some of my newest batteries that I had to help install to make sure our site stays up. And then as you can see on the left, that's one of my generators that keeps the site powered if something goes down. So right
Dang, big generator. You weren't lying. Wow.
now, we have 3 of those,
Wow.
of course. So Houston is getting bigger right now as we speak, to make sure that the network stays up and running. So always the one thing that I want you guys to take away from is no matter what your passion is, stay true to yourself in that passion. Don't let the outside world, because you're not like the typical, change who you are. Because the typical is not always the best. What you have is going to be a great asset no matter what, no matter where you are, no matter who you are. You are a very, very strong piece to that puzzle that makes the world work. And you always have to remember that.
All right, before I get to the student questions, I do have one. You did about you got an associate's rather than a bachelor's. So in the engineering field, would you say the experience or the education is most important in being successful in the career?
I would say a little bit of both. Honestly, you have to have the education as far as the thirst to have the knowledge for it. But the experience is what's going to make it. You can have the paperwork all you want, and just another moment of transparency. I have that associate's degree for 2 years. It wasn't until I got the exam. You can't hear?
It got really, really soft again.
Oh goodness, I don't know.
I hear you.
Is it better?
Yeah.
Okay. So I took that degree for 15 years before I became an engineer because I didn't have the experience. I had the paperwork, but I didn't have the experience. So you have to start somewhere. So my recommendation always is to, like I said, keep looking at certifications. Also, there's contract positions. You can start business yourself. You can actually grow into that experience just with the tools you were given from high school, from the certifications you have. No matter where you go online, I log into Coursera, I log into, the Rising Hacks and education programs where we certify a lot. And if you're reluctant to immediately walk in, definitely see what
Yeah, and there's also organizations like NSBE that provide things like that. In the National Society of Black Engineers, I know they have huge chapters in Mississippi State. When I was at LSU, we had a huge chapter. So even at PWIs, the NSBE has a very big presence on campus, and that's an organization that those people stay with the rest of their career.
Yep.
But I have just a few questions I want to get to. And the first one is, and these are all ninth graders. First is Kwame Johnson, who is a aspiring engineer. It's his dream to be an engineer. And he asked, what is the advice you would give to someone who would want to be an upcoming engineer?
Keep going. Keep learning. There's never a time that you can't learn something from being in your experience. Build that experience. Argue with people. Do a lot of research on your area. Build your world around the form of engineering that you want. Stay true to yourself. There's no right way or wrong way to be here. There's no formula that's going to get you there. It's you learn. So stay on it.
This is from Jamarian Merriweathers. And he asked, what types of problems do you usually run into when you're dealing with the network?
Oh, very unique problems are people running into cell towers.
I didn't think about that.
There's quite a few accidents that happen at cell towers when they have storms, old equipment. A lot of times.
Now you say old, that couldn't be that, because technology gets obsolete very quickly.
Very quickly. But when I say old, I mean 3G old.
Oh,
so
wow.
We're looking at, because there's people selling very quick on comfort. And they may not have the type of technology. So if that equipment has to be replaced and there's a formula that has not been built for that site, that site goes down and nothing comes back to pick it up. But yeah, a lot of times we have a lot of accidents.
Wow. And that leads us to that leads us to our next question, which is from Jakayla Page, and she asked, when a tower goes out, how long does it take to get it back up?
Oh. Depends on. I have been able to pull the tower back up in 30 seconds.
Wow.
I've been able to pull up a tower in 30 seconds, but then also I have had issues where towers have been down for 48 hours.
Wow.
And some have been due to, you know, weather or storms to where I've had to have one of my colts, one of my cows, one of my trucks go out there and be a backup site for that area.
Wow.
Or I would be able to transmit that one side of the tower or that one site to the nearest cell tower to where that is a backup to where our customers have found it. Because the goal at the end of the day is to allow everyone to see the
This is Keisha Daughtry and William Walker. They pretty much have the same question, but they asked, what is the favorite part about your job?
Oh wow. I just love what I do overall. Just to know that I am giving the ability to stay connected in no matter what capacity it is. I think that's the most enjoyable part of my job. Because I came from a side where customers had so many different issues where they own businesses and couldn't stay connected, or unfortunately they lost a family member and needed to make calls out or something. Anything that happened, or even if it was a joyous occasion, I was there. And to know the fact that I created that network to help people build and stay connected, it's amazing. I FaceTime my dad every single day. Every day. Once, I'm a daddy's girl. He refuses to let me do anything without that. I don't FaceTime him once a day. I think he'll be on a plane to Houston.
Wow.
But also, with the technology, it's just the fact that knowing that I can even talking to you guys today, it's enjoying because guess what? I'm on my Verizon network right now.
I mean, and like you say, I mean, you're right. The world depends so much on it, and it takes people like you behind the scenes to make sure that happens because people get so mad when their coverage goes out and they can't do business, they can't talk. So it's really, it's extremely important and it's extremely large skill. But we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us. But I do have one last question for you.
Sure.
You grew up on the south side of Chicago, which is, I don't know if people know, is one of the toughest places to live in America. You grew up Black, and you're not too much older than the kids watching now, but you become extremely successful. And like you said, even with just an associate's degree, so it's not always about the college degree. So what can our young Black students do when they're going to face the same obstacles you faced to be just as successful?
Stay motivated. Build a network for you. And when I say build a network for you, build a support group. Have friends that are goal oriented. I have a lot of friends that come to me and say, you stuck to the path. You stuck to what you wanted. You achieved your dream and your goal because it was best for you. And that's what I recommend. Do what's best for you. I said I grew up on the south side of Chicago. Sometimes it's one of the toughest places to grow up. I was blessed enough, and I was lucky enough to have family who believed in me, but I also was lucky and blessed enough to have friends who were like, build that network for you. And just know I'm here. I'm an email away, I'm a Zoom away, and I'm here to be a part of that network too. So thank you. Thank you for that.
I'm here for it. Well, and again, we thank you so much for joining us. And next time you're in town, I'd love to meet you. And when we finally get our COVID restrictions lifted, we'd love to have you on campus.
Oh, definitely. Well, I will be trying to send something to you guys soon. So thank you so much again. And you guys have a great day.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye.